Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of Chemical Guys Detail Garage. On today's video, I want to show you guys how to clean and prep your trims for a coated dressing and show you the different types of dressing to apply to the various parts of your vehicle. So let's get right to it. All right guys, so let's jump straight into it. So first we're gonna be working with our exterior trim. Now, as you guys can see on this trim right here, it is a little bit faded. You do have a lot of sling on there from the tires, from an improper application of dressing to the tires. So I'm gonna show you guys how to clean this up, prep your trims properly, and apply coated dressing. So first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and apply a tape line right down the middle so that we can pretty much compare our results as far as what a clean and conditioned side should look like versus an untreated side. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that down. Now we're going to be using Nonsense all-purpose cleaner. If you guys haven't used Nonsense before, Nonsense is pretty much an all-purpose cleaner that's pH neutral and balanced, so it's going to be safe for virtually all of your interior and exterior surfaces, and it's going to go ahead and give it a deep clean and get rid of any kind of dirt, grime, body oils, and much more. So the way I like using this, and the reason I like using it on trims, is because it removes any kind of previous dressings. I mean, you have that sling on there, so that's, you know, any kind of oil or grime or whatever it's on there, it's on the trim, so you want to make sure to clean that out before you apply a dressing. So the way I like using this is I'll spray directly onto my brush, and that's just to kind of control the overspray, just because I don't want to get it onto the paint. But it's fine if I get it onto the paint, but I just want to kind of minimize my work effort and just give it a nice little scrub. And this brush is going to help you exfoliate any kind of dirt, grime, any kind of previous dressings that are within the pores of the plastic, so that we give it a deep clean and we get rid of any grime that could potentially interfere with their bond of application. All right, so after I finish the little section, what I'm gonna do now is put my brush and my cleaner down. I'm gonna grab a workhorse towel here. I'm using the black one. So I'm just gonna wipe off any residue from the cleaner and any kind of leftover grime. So we have some kind of like residue right here, maybe like some tar that was on the vehicle. You wanna make sure to buff off the cleaner as best as you can, because you want the trim to be extremely dry, so that when we apply our coated dressing, it's going to bond directly to the surface without any kind of water interfering with that bond. So just make sure to wipe that off. Once you wiped it off, now it's time to apply a dressing. Now, the dressing that I'm going to be using today is going to be our Clear Liquid Extreme. Now, the reason I'm using this dressing is because it's an oil-based dressing. So when it comes to exterior and exterior trim, you want to make sure that you're using an oil-based dressing, because an oil-based dressing is going to go ahead and penetrate much deeper. So if you have any kind of like super faded plastics or chalky, trim, an oil-based dressing is going to do much more at rejuvenating the plastic and the trim to pretty much nourish it and bring it back to brand new. So it's going to go ahead and bring it back and give it a nice deep dark black look and a deep high shine. So what you want to do here is you want to spray onto an applicator. Now I'm using one of our ultra thin foam applicators here. The reason I'm using it is because, check that out. It's a nice snug fit. It fits perfectly, and I don't have to worry about getting it onto the paint. So whenever you're choosing an applicator, you want to choose something that's going to pretty much work as best with your trim and the surface that you're working on. So this is perfect for this trim. So what I'm going to do now is spray directly onto the foam itself. I'm going to give it 3 light sprays, and I'm going to begin to work it onto the surface. And right as I apply it, you guys will see it turns the trim much darker. It gives it a deeper, bolder, more rich look. I'm going to do my best here to not get it over the tape line so that we get a solid 50-50 before and after. Check it out. Huge difference. Without me even removing the tape, you see a huge difference as far as, the life that this plastic trim has. It looks amazing. It looks dark. It looks brand new. So now that you've applied a coated dressing, since this is an oil-based dressing, you want to make sure that you don't have any residue that's on there, because you want to keep it as dry to the touch as possible as you can. So what I like doing is, once you apply a coated dressing, grab yourself a dry towel. And this is just so that you pick up any excess. So what I do now is I grab my towel, give it a light little buff, and this picks up any excess product. So in the case that I happen to find myself over applying the product, there's not going to be any excess on there, and it's going to be a completely dry to the touch finish. As you guys can see, it's nice and smooth. It doesn't look oily or anything. It just looks nice and brand new. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take off my tape line here. I'll do it from the bottom up. There you guys have it. You guys see that huge before and after. The left side, which is treated, clean, and conditioned, looks much more deeper, much more black, and it's actually protected, so those harsh UV rays don't damage it, dry it out, or fade it. As you guys can see on the right side, you still have it all kind of like faded. I mean, I'm not saying that the trim is like super chalky or anything like that, but as you guys can see, there is a huge difference. And especially with these trims, when they don't look that like dry or anything like that, it makes a huge difference when you apply oil-based dressing, because it pretty much brings it right back to life. So now we're gonna go ahead and proceed with cleaning the rest of the vehicle, cleaning up the trims and applying the dressing, and then we're gonna go ahead and move on to the interior. All right guys, now it's time to move on for interior. Now, as you guys can see right here, this door panel, it doesn't look necessarily faded or neglected, but we do want to make sure that it's always protected. So what we're going to do first is we're going to apply our tape line here, just so I can show you guys that cool little before and after. I'm going to go ahead and do my best here to kind of get a good angle so that we get a nice hard line to show you guys. There we go. What I'm going to do now is spray directly into my brush here, spray just a little bit onto the surface, and then begin to agitate it. And same thing, we always recommend using a brush, especially for interior, because the thing with interior surfaces is that they're most likely going to be texturized. So you want to make sure that you use a brush, because the brush is what's going to ultimately help you get into all the cracks and crevices and, you know, the texture of this material. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up right here. Since the surface is not like super dirty or anything like that, we're finding ourselves not having to use so much product. But in the case that you're working on a vehicle that has very filthy interior surfaces, you can use as much product as you'd like. I recommend just kind of keeping it at a minimal so that you don't get all the product all over the place. And also don't forget to make sure to get this little area as well. This is one of those areas that's always getting neglected just because it's not a main part of the car and you don't really necessarily see it, because this area is kind of not exposed when the door is open or closed. Just finish scrubbing that off. And now we're going to grab a yellow workhorse towel. We're using yellow because, remember, we're dedicating this for our interior. So we used the black ones earlier for the exterior because the black ones we use for either exterior trims, wheels, or tires. And that's just so that we kind of color coordinate our towels. You know, we want to work with the more grimy towels with the grimy towels, keep them with those, and then these interior towels with the interior towels. Just like that. Very easy, effectively, you cleaned it. Nonsense is designed to get rid of pretty much anything that's on the surface of your trim. So any kind of oils, dressings, body oils, dirt, grime, it's gonna knock all that off and it's gonna leave the surface completely bare. Now that's another reason that we use it for the exterior, is because it's gonna leave it completely bare, which means that whenever we apply a coat or dressing, it bonds directly and adheres directly to the plastic or the trim. So now that this is dry, I'm just gonna give it one little final wipe down with the dry side of my towel here. I'm going to proceed to applying a dressing. Now the dressing that we're going to be applying today is going to be VRP. Now VRP is a water-based dressing. Now unlike the extreme liquid dressing, this is a water-based dressing versus the other, which is an oil-based dressing. So the way I do this is I apply a few drops of VRP. So now that I have my 2 drops of VRP on my microfiber applicator, what I like to do here is I like to kind of spread it out. So what I mean by that is kind of spread it out through the panel that you're working on, and then begin at your original point. Go left and right, up and down, whatever your preference is for applying this dressing. Now when you're applying a dressing to your interior, it doesn't really necessarily matter the direction that you use, just because you're not going to get anything caught, and we just clean the surface. So just make sure to go ahead and coat that nice and evenly. As you guys can see, VRP leaves a nice high gloss finish, and it does add a lot of depth to the panel itself. But not only does it make your interior panels look great, a lot of people don't notice this or don't really think about it, but you're putting a layer of protection onto your door panels to protect it from those harsh UV rays. Now you want to make sure that your interior is protected, because areas like this top area right here, these are going to be the areas that get exposed to the most UV rays. These are going to be the areas that dry out first and get neglected first. So now that we have that done, we can go ahead and pull off our tape line here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this right off to show you guys that nice hard 50-50 difference. All right guys, and there it is, that hard before and after, much more condition, more depth, and protected versus an untreated and unclean side. You guys can see a huge difference as far as clarity, the shine. It looks amazing. This is what pretty much your interior should look like. And remember, VRP does enhance a high gloss finish, so that's why we're using it. So now we're going to continue with the rest of the interior. I'm going to go ahead and continue with cleaning it with Nonsense, and then we're going to go ahead and follow it up with the coat of VRP. So stay tuned for those results. All right guys, and there you guys have it. We showed you guys how to clean and prep your trims for an application of dressing. You guys saw we used our 2 different dressings today, VRP and Clear Liquid Extreme. Now I showed you guys the differences, VRP being a water base. VRP is great for interior and exterior surfaces, but if you need that heavy coat of conditioning and restoration, then you're gonna wanna go with an oil-based dressing such as Clear Liquid Extreme. Bottom line, clean and prep your trim and your tires and your interior before you apply a coat of dressing to have the best shine, the best protection, and the best durability possible. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you guys want to pick up any of these products that we used today, make sure to visit our website, chemicalguys.com. As always, my name is Joey. This is Chemical Guys Detail Garage, and we'll see you guys next time.